Yeah. And John, there's no guarantees, like 2 years ago, VCs were throwing money all over the place like it was their job.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, look at some of these companies that have gone under that these big VCs have invested in with like little to no due diligence.
Yep.
Well, next year, I mean, everyone's predicting this loom and doom economy and recession. There's no guarantee you're going to raise that next round. So you better have some plan of being able to essentially take care of yourself and fund your own growth, because there's no guarantee that next round of funding's coming. It's you have to plan for that.
The company founded by today's guest is very different than anything I ever did. For those that don't know, I built an insurance company and then sold it into private equity after giving myself a 2,000% raise and quitting my job in corporate America 9.5 years earlier. I didn't do anything to change the world. I existed in a space and had a niche focus. I felt as if insurance consulting for colleges and universities in the employee benefits arena was vastly underserved. I focused on that space and eventually grew to having higher profile college clients in 20 plus states. Versus today's guest, who is building a platform and very well may change the world. He is using artificial intelligence and machine learning in the social media space to scrub accounts with his company, LifeBrand. Another thing we don't have in common, I never needed to raise any money for my company, where TJ, on the other hand, has raised tens of millions and he's putting it to use, which we'll talk about. But you may be shocked on some things we do have in common. One in particular that I want to focus on before we bring our guest out is the importance of camaraderie amongst employees in a smaller organization. For me, I competed against much larger established competitors, some of which have been in business for over 100 years and had tens of thousands of employees. My hiring practices enabled me to compete with them. If I were to get in a pissing match and tit for tat for the best employees in the business to come work for me, I knew I would eventually get beat out. These are billion-dollar organizations I am up against. But I knew one place I could beat them: an awesome workplace culture where we all got along and are actually friends. This was my secret weapon. This was something that my bigger competitors could never pull off. And by having great camaraderie within my office walls, everybody worked together better. We elevated each other. We were not bringing on talentless people. You couldn't be a dumbass. But how you fit in with everyone and your overall demeanor was more important than the varying degrees of talent. When you start your own company that competes against established competitors in an industry, you need to look at ways to be different. You can't sit there and say the same shit your bigger competitor says. You will lose every time. Don't play their game. Play your own game and change the narrative to where your company is strong. Great team camaraderie and chemistry should very well be one of those strengths. I recently participated in LifeBrand's Series A round of funding, and I kicked the tires immensely before writing that check. One of the areas that impressed me was that the employees there all seemed to like each other and work well together. As LifeBrand continues to grow, it may be hard to maintain that culture, but there is one hell of a foundation there currently to build off of. Let me introduce to the show TJ Colaiezzi of LifeBrand. Welcome to 2000% Raise.
John, I'm psyched to be here.
Hey, man, and we got a hell of a lot more in common than just camaraderie in the workplace, brother. But I wanted to shorten my monologue because you got so much cool shit to talk about, man. LifeBrand itself, it's a company that really impacts everybody, and what's really cool about it is everybody's going to understand the application of your technology too, which we will get into. But TJ, I gotta tell you, man, let's first talk about your background. You're not some tech nerd. You're not some nuclear scientist. So how you came up with AI and a machine learning concept with your background as it's a little funny to me. You came up in the gym industry. Is that right?
Yeah, John, I started my professional working career as a janitor at LA Fitness. I was 20 years old. I had just dropped out of college. I was going to school for architectural engineering and graphic design, so nothing that has to do with what I do today. I needed a job. I was out taking a run one day when I was in better shape than I am now. Came across a new club that had just opened, saw a friend in the parking lot, said, "Hey, they hired?" She said, "Yeah." I walked in, they were hiring for a janitor, and that's what I did. I only worked as a janitor for one day until, it just so happened that, one of the vice presidents of the company was there, saw me talking with some people I knew. I grew up in the town, so I knew a lot of the members there.
Yep.
And he pulled me aside and talked me into doing sales, which I didn't want to do. And he ultimately promised me that if I didn't like it after a week, I could go back to being a janitor. But, then ended up being in sales and moving my way up into management and eventually helping, the company grow new markets throughout the Northeast, open up new clubs throughout the Northeast, troubleshoot underperforming clubs. And, 20 some years later, then had this idea to start a company. And John, I'd always said that, man, if I had something I could sell across the world over the internet and not be limited to a 3-mile radius around a gym, which is typically,
Right.
what you're when you're opening a club,
Yep.
that I could do something really great. And when the idea happened, I just knew, kind of like you gave yourself a 2,000% raise.
Yep.
Like at some point in life, you got to go for it. And this was my opportunity.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Glencrest Global. Glencrest Global is a Chicago and Los Angeles-based venture capital firm that is involved in interesting companies with interesting founders. To see some of Glencrest Global's investments, visit glencrestglobal.com. People that are good in sales, man, it's almost unfair to people that aren't in sales. You look at like the actuarial types or the behind closed people, the people that on paper at least are a hell of a lot smarter than guys like me and you, but they're sitting there and in that corporate environment, we're making, 5-10 times as much often.
John, it's funny. When I had the idea, I had actually pitched this company to somebody else.
Okay.
And told them they should build it. Because to your point, what do I know about technology?
Yep.
And one of the really interesting things that he said to me that day was, TJ, 9 out of 10 tech companies fail, not because it's a bad idea or the code was written improperly, because it was somebody that built it that has no idea how to build and scale a company. Nobody that knows how to build a workplace culture, like you mentioned, and build the camaraderie around people. Management is the skill of achieving predetermined objectives with and through the voluntary cooperation of others. And that's a really tough skill. And when he said that, I'm like, you know what, you're right. He said, just find someone to build it for you. There's companies out there that'll build technology, and then eventually you'll grow and get some traction, and you can hire some of the best people in that field, which we have. I mean, we have, in my opinion, one of the best chief technology officers and chief product officers that you can get, that believe in what we're doing, that are really the quote unquote brains behind this operation from the technology standpoint. And there's a lot of other intangibles that are way more important than knowing how to write the code yourself.
You know what? I'm going to compliment that real quick here, TJ. That's an interesting story you just said, because I used to be in the employee benefits arena. That's where I made all my money and stuff. And the whole internet, boom, I guess was happening. It already happened. But as more people tried to modernize insurance in the tech space through like the open enrollment meeting process and just how it was shared and everything else. And you'd get all these tech companies that would be there for a year, then they'd disappear. They'd be there for a year, then they'd disappear, because you get people outside of the industry, they knew tech, they didn't know insurance, they didn't know the relationships. So they'd come and go. And the ones that stuck around, in my experience at least, were the ones that were actually derived from an insider in insurance that went and solicited the tech company to come partner with them versus vice versa. And those are the ones that had more staying power, or the tech company that was smart enough to find an insider to get in on it with them. Because
another great point you just made, it was an experienced person partnering up with other people that can help take it to a new level. So in your case, the experienced, broker that's bringing in the tech to help. And kind of the same thing here. A huge objective that we've done here is to try to surround ourselves with as many strategic people as possible. John, you said when you kicked the tires on our company, and, we're super happy to have you as part of that Series A, but also on our advisory board. You had spent all these years in the employee benefits space that's a direct synergy for us. We know that the employee benefit companies could and should be reselling our product.
Yeah.
So for me to just go knock on all the doors, figuring out how to get in, it's a lot more strategic for me to have you opening the right door for me and telling me the lingo I need or how to speak to these folks. One of the coolest things about our product, which we'll talk about, I guess, in a little bit here, but the good thing and the bad thing is our target market's really everybody. Any single person that has social media or any company that has employees that use social media is our target market. That's almost everybody out there. And the hardest part when you have something like that is figuring out where to concentrate, knowing that each one of those audiences, markets are going to be different, not just based on the vertical, but maybe the parts of the country they're in or the world that they're in. It's a really big undertaking that if you can have experts in each of those different verticals and areas to help, well, I'd be foolish not to surround myself with people like that.
Right. And that's a great point. And, I'm kind of cracking up here too, because we haven't really told the audience what you've been doing yet, but I want to tell a quick story about on how you and I met. First of all, I want to just give TJ some street credit here, just so we're all on the same page. This guy just finished a almost $30 million Series A round with a post-money valuation of $130 million. Dickhead right here, John, got in now, so I'm in at this. I was in the pre-money till like 110-ish. Had I got in 4 years earlier, I would have got in an evaluation of $5 million back in 2018. And that's one of those, and guys, we fully expect this in a couple of years to be, pushing the billion. And I always make fun of people that say this, but yes, that is with a B, a billion with a B. I'm making fun of myself there, but it goes to the early stage venture capitalist. I guess the theorem, right? You get involved in these companies, and how many I got involved in 50 $5 million valuation companies. 48 of them freaking are gone by now, probably. But then you get one like LifeBrand where that turns into $1 billion and that makes up for all of them. That's why you do this, right, TJ?
Yeah, and look, and just like folks that came in at a Series A, folks that'll come in at a Series B, there's maybe a bigger valuation there, but there's at least a little bit more of a footprint or idea. Some of our earliest investors, when they first invested, we didn't even have a working prototype at the time. I mean, they were really going out on a limb, we didn't even know if we could get the permissions we needed from the different social media companies that we work with to make all this work. We didn't have any proof of concept or product fit.
Right.
So,
Yep. And it's because of that, from me as an investor, that's why I was able to put a much larger check size with TJ's company than I would on these other ones, simply because there is that security component there.
You want to gamble, but maybe not like all the way gamble, but you like fantasy? Moneyline app is the place for you. Player prop bets in a parlay with some unique payout or continue options along the way make this company one of the faster growing apps of its nature. Check out Moneyline app on Apple and Android.
Just real briefly, TJ and Emma, you talk about putting yourself in the right rooms, keeping your head on a swivel, networking, being around people that you actually want to associate with. And TJ, it's so funny how we met. So we didn't know it, but we were both at a party together at Tao in Los Angeles, Super Bowl weekend last year. And it's a small party. It was Barstool Sports was doing it. There was only about 30 people there. It was maybe less up on this balcony. And the only reason I was even there was because I'm friends with an actor named Jaleel White. A lot of people might know who he is, but he was there for some reason, and I was part of, me and him were hanging out that night, and I just kind of tagged along, and, nothing really comes of it, whatever. A month later, I'm at this dinner in Vegas, and TJ and one of his associates are telling this story about all the cool shit they did over Super Bowl weekend in Los Angeles, and they mentioned that they met Jaleel at this party, and I go, wait, what? And I'm sitting across from him at this dinner. We weren't really talking. I go, wait, who? Where? What? Yeah, it turns out we're at the same freaking party. We actually talked that night, but I had a few martinis in me. We didn't remember the particular. But I just remember thinking to myself, okay, so TJ is there. I remember meeting you at it, thinking to myself that because they were rolling out the Barstool sports book thing or whatever, and I was just thinking, okay, he's one of their big gamblers that they invite invited to come.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you talk about, you know, I'm a big believer in being in the right room, surrounding yourself with the right people. And, we had met some folks. I had actually posted a picture from an event we were at earlier that day. And one of our advisors in our company, her name is Jen Groover, phenomenal folk. You guys want to follow her. I think you've met her, John. Just awesome person. She happened to see on social media that I was at this place, and her very good friend from Barstool wasn't even in the picture with me, was kind of behind us.
Okay.
And she texted us both connecting. Oh my God, you guys are at the same party. You have to meet. Next thing you know, me and her meet. She invites us to this party. And look, it's
that's fun.
way past my bedtime at that point. I think you've learned I'm an old man anymore. The last thing I want to be at is a Chainsmokers concert at 1:00 in the morning. But again, you never know if a company like Barstool invites you to the private area. You never know who could be there.
Yep.
And then fast forward a month later when we were in Vegas, is because we were on a good, mutual friend of ours, David Metzler's TV show, Office Hours. And, we happened to, I think I was actually interviewing that. I think you were a guest on the show and I was co-hosting that particular day.
Yep.
And, just immediately I'm like, man, this guy, everything he's talking about is what we need for our company. And then we ended up having, talking at dinner that night. But again, it was two different rooms that we both chose to put ourselves in to be surrounded by the right people. And I don't know if I was the right person or you were the right person, or if we each are for each other.
Well, and there were synergies. So a lot of times, especially in these early stage companies, I'll get invited to participate, but really they just want my money as an early investor. It's some will ask me to be on their advisory board, but primarily it's just because they want access to my network, and which is fine, and I'll accept that sometimes if I think I could actually help them in some capacity.
Right.
For LifeBrand, and we're going to get into this, my network and TJ's collide tremendously. He doesn't really need me much from a network standpoint. I'm sure I could complement his, but there's a lot of overlap already there, especially in the sports arena and in the athlete and celebrity world. But there was other things I could do from an advisory standpoint. The application, I'm going to let TJ explain it here, but the application of what LifeBrand is doing with their technology in the social media realm translates to other worlds. Okay, back like for lack of a better word, I call it a background check. Okay, if I'm a kid at a college going to a prestigious university, wouldn't that college, wouldn't it behoove them to have, hey, let's clean up your social media. Here's what you should do. Gosh, you know what, TJ? I worked with over 100 colleges and universities that were all private, high tuition institutions that would definitely lend their ear to you on this.
Yeah.
And additionally, I worked with human resources departments. I worked with insurance companies. How about an add-on benefit for this where hey, we're going to roll this out to your employee base at the next enrollment meeting, or it's going to be part of a EAP program as an add-on. There's ways I could navigate that space. So I was not only comfortable writing a bigger check with LifeBrand, I was also comfortable because I understood the space and thought I could actually bring value to the table beyond just the money. So, had I not been hanging out with you a little that night, had TJ not, got him that text, hey, you got to meet these people. We ended up at the same, small ass party. And if a month later we had, but did not sit across from each other at a table of about 40 people.
Yeah, we could have been at the opposite end of that table and this never would have happened. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Exactly. And now it's like, okay, TJ's got a lot of gasoline on this fire blowing up this company. And now I get to be a small piece of that, helping do that. So, what, TJ, why don't we get into it now? We've built up the suspense. What the hell is this company? What the hell is John and TJ been talking about here?
LifeBrand is in the process of becoming the world leader in social media education, detection, and prevention. Everyone sees in the news almost every week, some CEO forced to resign because of some stupid post made 10 years ago on Twitter. Every year in the NFL draft, you see a player drop because of something that he posted when he was high school or college. Kevin Hart was forced to step down and not host the Oscars a couple years ago because of an old joke that he put up. And he's a comedian. It's crazy how people weaponize social media against people, but even not in the big public examples like I just gave. Every day in workplaces across the country, social media is causing significant problems. If you have 5,000 employees, you have 5,000 micro brands that represent your company, whether you like it or not. Because according to a recent study, 98% of employees have social media. 75% of those 98 are using social media while on the job, and over 50% are talking about their job on social media. So think about all the money that these companies spend on marketing departments, building out a brand, an image, a reputation, how much they protect that brand and image. And then you have 5,000 people out there, 2,500 of them are posting whatever they want about the company that could be off-brand, off-color. Maybe they're bashing the company. Companies are realizing that they need to help educate their employees on social media, protect those brands, but then use it in a strong way. So we have two components. The most important part of what we've built is our AI technology that goes back, cleans your social media from inception. So right now you can connect your Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram, or all four to our platform.
Let me,
and in a matter of
real quick, TJ, and for the audience, the AI is artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, yes.
And most of you probably knew that, but I want to just highlight that because this is not a human being. It is technology doing this through AI. Huge distinction, which makes this not a $4 million company, but potentially a $4 billion company. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, and John, that's the artificial intelligence doing it versus a human accomplishes two really big goals. One, it makes it scalable so that as we start to hit that hockey stick ramp of success with sales, you can keep ramping it and on, But the other thing that it does is it takes the human bias out of it. It's not an individual determining what could be potentially harmful or problematic. It's trained artificial intelligence, which, to give a quick overview of how artificial intelligence or continual machine learning is trained, it's trained by its users over a long course of time. So the more and more users that we have, it's not just 5 people that sat in some company that developed this AI. It's hundreds of thousands or millions of people that helped train this to find and detect potentially problematic stuff. Again, what's offensive or problematic is up to an individual person's opinion.
Right.
But the fact that this is a wide net we cast instead of just one person or 5 people determining what should be flagged or not flagged.
Yep.
So long story short, you can connect your social media accounts in a matter of moments. Our artificial intelligence will scan every single post, photo, video, words within photo or video. So John, the pictures in the background, we can search those words to make sure there's nothing inappropriate. And then we will identify any potentially problematic posts, list them right for you on our platform, and then you can delete them for free. So one of the things that we talked about earlier is that can apply to almost everybody. Shouldn't anybody that's had social media for the past 10 or 15 years, just out of an abundance of caution or risk mitigation, insurance, go back and scrub your social media to make sure there's nothing there? And any individual can go to our website. So like anyone listening to this podcast can go to lifebrand.life right now while you're listening and get a free social media check, kind of like a free credit check.
Yep.
And then I think the proof in why people should do it individually, or then we can talk more about the bigger picture, which is why companies are providing this to their employees. Our average user deletes over 19 posts. That's a lot. If you think about the average person deletes over 19 posts, that's proof right there that what we've built is needed and works. People are seeing the benefit of cleaning up their past and their brand and reputation. And John, they're not typically these bad, harmful posts. Everyone always thinks the worst. They think like racist or homophobic. They're never like that because unfortunately, people that post that type of stuff sadly believe in it and they don't want to remove it. They stand by what they said. Most of the stuff that we're flagging is just stuff that can be taken out of context or, did you really need that picture on a Thursday night of you and your friends at the bar taking a shot when, might that make people think differently of you? Like, it's a Thursday night. They got work the next day. I mean, 19 posts get deleted.
Yeah.
This is John Cerasani, and thank you for listening to the show as I interrupt myself. If you have a business or a business idea and want me to take a look at it, let me know and we could set up a $500 consultation. If your business idea is one that I don't think I can help you on, I will respectfully decline the meeting, but I'll still give you my 2 cents for free. One possible outcome of these meetings is that we become business partners. Additionally, I'm looking for people that want opportunities or need capital for their cash flowing business idea. This could be anything from franchise opportunities to something new and proprietary. Contact me at 2000percentraise.com and fill out the serious inquiries only form on the bottom to get started.
And I did it on me, TJ, and it was, it comes back relatively quickly. It said since 2008 when I started at Facebook, blah, 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 and that was like 68, I think. 68 things were flagged. I ended up leaving a chunk of them on only because they were flagged for political reasons. And I had lived at the Trump Tower in Chicago. And this is where that machine learning component comes in. What's interesting.
Yeah.
So now it's going to learn, okay, wait, he left that in there. It wasn't offensive. Okay, over time, machine learning will pick up. He's not talking about Donald Trump. He's talking about the Trump Tower in Chicago. And you know what I mean? And like, you know, like another example, right? I'm in San Sebastian, Spain. Somebody in the background.
And John, that's
background was eating a popsicle. Like, they're going to learn over time that there was a popsicle. Okay. So
but that's a great example. And, you know, one of the big metrics for us, you know, as we keep growing, you know, every company has different KPIs, you know, key performance indicators that they gauge. And, you know, we have a whole host of them, but one of them is our deletion percentage. When we first started, you know, for example, in your case, there were 60 some that were flagged.
Yep.
Let's just say for simple math, there were 60, you deleted 20,
okay.
You deleted 33.3%
Yep.
of the post.
Yep.
Well, over time, the machine learning would learn that in that instance, Trump Tower isn't you endorsing Trump. You didn't delete it. So over time, then maybe it won't need to flag it in that instance.
Yep.
A goal for us is to keep seeing that deletion percentage increase. Because what that means is our AI has gotten more accurate. So now maybe by next year, if you did the same exact scrub of the same exact post, maybe we only would have flagged 30.
Right.
And you would have deleted the same 20.
Yeah.
And now we're at 66%. So it'll keep learning and getting better. But at the beginning, our whole thing is, let's just play it safe and flag it, you know? And maybe somebody, even though it was Trump Tower, is still scared that would associate them with Donald Trump.
Oh, there's definitely an argument for that, my friend. There's definitely an argument. No, leave Trump Tower on there because it is offensive. Trust me, people flick it all the time.
And it's funny, but you know, you had mentioned that we flag political stuff, and some people ask why. And look, our whole thing is, if we flag 200 things on your social media and you choose not to delete a single one, that's your prerogative, and you have every right as an American with free speech to say what you want on social media. But the thing that we try to remind people of, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from repercussions. And just because you're allowed to say whatever you want, it doesn't mean other people have to hear it, want it, or then support your business because of it. And that's something that's important to educate people. You know, I tell people I use this example all the time, that my neighbors have a flagpole in their backyard that's kind of right against my backyard. And they've been flying a flag for almost 2 years now that says Trump DeSantis 24. And I think there's no way those two are running together. But regardless as to if that was a Republican flag, different candidates within the Republican field, if it was Democratic, I won't let people post a picture of my yard that has that flagpole in the background on social media, because it looks like it could be on my property. And regardless to who it's endorsing, it has nothing to do with the particular candidate. I can't have that, because right away you're automatically offending roughly 50% of the people out there. And that's people that then might not buy from me or not want to do business with me. You know, there's years ago, people kept their political opinions to themselves, and there could be some value to going back to that.
You know, and I think you, especially in your position, right, you need to be hypersensitive about that. But that's an example. You should be that example. Hey, this is TJ's company. He's worried about the damn neighbor's flag showing up in the background. Okay, maybe you don't have to go that far as just a regular person or whomever. But that should be the benchmark. Okay. You know, and I think a key thing here at TJ too is it's not absolute, right? It's absolute in terms of the reporting, but it's only reporting it to you. But you do what you want with this information.
You do what you want. You are in control, and that's what we praise about our company, is that we're putting the user in control. If you don't want to delete it, don't delete it. If you don't think there's anything wrong with it, that's fine. But again, the fact that our average user does delete over 19 posts, and John, that stat was before TikTok went live. TikTok just went live recently. My guess is those numbers are going to go up even higher now.
100%.
It's if the average person is deleting 19 posts, most people have found value in removing some of the information that's out there. And, you know, when it goes back to companies, how companies benefit from this, one of two ways. First, they should educate their employees. Beyond our technology, we have the country's only nationally accredited social media education course where we actually certify and certify people on responsible social media use. It's a roughly an hour and a half long e-course. It just received its national accreditation status after a 4-year journey. Let me tell you, it's not easy to have a course nationally accredited, but now folks can go online. It's called the Social Media Accountability and Awareness Certification, SMA, and companies can provide that to their employees as a way to say, look, we don't want to talk to you about social, because it's such an uncomfortable gray area. It's that big elephant in the room. Employers don't want to tell you to be smarter with your social media, but they would love to be able to provide some type of tool or training. And that's where we come in. We're now kind of we're not mom and dad talking to the teenage kids. We're that cool uncle that lives around the corner that can help companies embrace social media in their company.
The cool uncle, not the creepy one, the cool one.
Right. But then provide a tool that helps them clean up their social media after they've learned about it. Companies now feel good that they've educated their employees. Again, every company has a social media policy in their handbook. Very few provide any kind of actual training. And as we have spent the past couple of years interviewing heads of HR, heads of human capital for some of the larger companies in the country, they've all said it's a huge problem. None of them knew how to walk that line to even give our technology to somebody. Something we learned when we launched with just the technology and not the course component. Well, there's no delivery method to get this technology in front of folks, but now having the course to educate them, certify their employees. And then if after you just sat there for an hour and a half, learning of all, not just the pitfalls of social media, but how you can strategically use it to build a better brand for yourself, why wouldn't you then go use that tool to clean up your social media? So
yeah, that's awesome. And one thing I also want to touch on that we didn't dive into too much there, and then I want to move over to funded, because I think how you funded everything, TJ, is so damn interesting to our audience. But one thing TJ didn't even dive down the rabbit hole in, because it is a rabbit hole. And as a person that used to work with human resources directors, anyone that's been around HR people, the Society of Human Resource Managers, SHRM, go to any of their conferences. Compliance. That rules their world. What we see HR people, especially at the big companies, especially at the Fortune 500 types of companies, they're not the feel-good people. Hey, let's give you this PTO. All they're doing is talking about compliance and how important that is. And there's a big gray area right now where, hey, I went and got a job. Let's say I interviewed with XYZ company, and well, shit, they didn't hire me because I'm a white male, and they think I'm overweight and I'm too tall to go work there. And, well, how did they know that? Okay, look, I saw that they looked at my Instagram story. A person in that HR department, boom, lawsuit. They did it because of Instagram. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, in our society today, what I just described there is happening way more than you think.
It's huge companies. Again, good example I can give. That was one of the things that happened right before I founded the company. A female had applied for a job. I won't mention the company, but she had applied for a job. Hiring manager looked at her social media, and you can tell. LinkedIn tells you who looks at your social media. Instagram and Facebook tells you who looks at their stories. She saw that the hiring manager looked at her social media. She didn't get the job because she was just the wrong person for the job, but she had just announced on social media that she was expecting a child. She then sued for discrimination, saying she didn't get the job because she was pregnant. That company went to court saying, we'll win. It's public knowledge. Doesn't matter. It's public knowledge if you go in for an interview if you're pregnant. The employer's not allowed to ask. If you're interviewing someone, you can't ask, are you pregnant? Are you planning on becoming pregnant? You can't ask people their sexuality, their religion. Like, those things can't come up. And you can see all those things when you look at social media. And then think about, not to, again, go too far down this rabbit hole, but think about credit or criminal background checks. If somebody wants to run your credit or criminal, you have to consent to it. You have to sign off. You have the right, you're protected as a consumer through the Fair Credit Reporting Agency, that you are allowed to review the information ahead of time, dispute it. Only 7 years worth of history can be used. None of that's happening with social media. And it's this big free-for-all that is now in the process of getting regulated, not just by states, but by companies. And John, again, you hit on it when you said all these HR folks go on to is compliance, protecting the compliance, protecting the company. We learned, and as a quick and fast-growing company like us, I think you have to learn and listen to your customers. I can't just be shoving an agenda down customers' throats and then saying, oh, no, we're buying. I wonder why. We heard from all these folks very early on that they get it. They love the technology, but now how do I deliver it to my employees in a way that is compliant? Well, I can require my employees to take a continuing education course and get certified on responsible social media use, but maybe I can't require or force them to just use the technology by itself. But when it's part of the course, again, you have to listen to what your consumers want. And it was very clear to us that these companies saw the problem, wanted a delivery method. So we built a delivery method for the technology.
Well, and also, any person in HR will tell you that the employees have that big brother mentality. Whenever HR asks me to do anything, okay, they're usually...
They do not trust HR.
Brother,
sadly.
I used to deal with it in health insurance. Like, people thought they were going to get fired if they told them their kid was freaking sick or needed a surgery. There was this law called HIPAA. You can't do things because of that. You know what I mean? And not even HIPAA, was before that. But I think what we're doing here, TJ, is taking that component fully out of it. There is no gray area. Okay, here you're signing off on this. It's like a background check. There's a third party called LifeBrand. They're not going to give me the information. I'm not going to know why your Facebook posts were flagged. They're not telling me this shit.
And this is for you. It's your benefit to go clean it up. Some companies don't even want to use it as a quote unquote background check. They use it as an onboarding tool. They say, hey, John, you have the job with us. However, we take our brand seriously. We need you to take your personal brand seriously. We're going to provide you with this great tool from LifeBrand just to make sure there's no skeletons in your social media past in that closet that you need to remove. We won't see the results. All we care about is that anything that was done in your past is gone. But also, companies might want to put their own logos or marks in there. Like you said, I worked in the fitness industry for years. I worked for two of the largest, most well-known brands. Well, when I left one to go to the other one, maybe there's a chance at some point I badmouth that other one on social media. Or I was posting how great my current club is. Well, I should probably remove those when I start to go work for a competitor, shouldn't I? My social media should be praising the old one, not my new one.
Yep.
Okay. And there's a custom vocabulary. So users can put in their own custom for things that they want us to flag.
Ooh, so if I worked at Michelin Tires and you want to do a LifeBrand thing over Michelin, okay, in addition to the Confederate flag in the background, and in addition to,
we can find Michelin Tires.
Okay, Michelin, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to just...
tire flag it.
Well, again, great example. Just last weekend, we had a very prominent player in the NFL reach out to us that's about to do an endorsement deal with a big company. And that company needed to make sure that he's never mentioned them or their competitor ever on social media. He had over 38,000 posts. I think it was 30 something. Don't hold me the exact number, but it was over 30,000 posts.
Yeah.
And him and his HR are like, how in the world can we do this in one day? They called us, and it was actually, on a Saturday, and our team actually worked with this individual just to help expedite it and make sure, but they were able to go back, and they did. They found things 20-some thousand posts ago talking about that brand in good light, but they still didn't want it. They just wanted nothing.
It's like, hey, buddy, you can't be the spokesman for the Packers if you're out there saying how great the Bears are. Come on, take the
right.
Sit down. Gosh, you started the company in frickin' 2018. You had some elevating status because of all people, Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary endorsed you at one point along the way. To me, gosh, I think you guys are so big now. It's that seems like a distant memory, but what a heck of an endorsement that is for somebody like Kevin O'Leary. Now listen, bro, you raised how much money? You had $110 million pre-money valuation. Round was supposed to be what, and what did you end up raising?
On our Series A, we had set out to raise a minimum of $20 million. We knew all along we'd probably strategically oversubscribe that round closer to $27 million, and we did. I mean, we raised a full $27 million. Prior to that, through a couple small C rounds. I mean, in total, the company's raised probably just shy of $30 million through a mix of institutional investors, very strategic, accredited investors that were going to bring some value to it. Again, without throwing people's names out there, because we like to try to respect everyone's public. But I mean, we have some folks for some of the biggest investment banks in the world personally invested. We have a pro sports team owner personally invested. I mean, we have a lot of really strategic folks, but then a lot of people like yourself that fit a specific market that we're going to be growing into that's smart to have them there. We have, there's very few people along the way, especially in that Series A, that just wrote a check. Almost everybody that wrote a check, I hope they will bring us more value than the actual check they wrote through. I mean, like John, you helping us, and just through some of our conversations, I mean, I'm pretty close to, brokering our first deal with a very large benefits and insurance provider that's first going to use it for their company. And then they're going to use that as a use case to roll it out and resell it. I mean, just that one company alone is a 7-figure annual deal. So through some of your advice, I mean, you've already brought me more value than a check that you might have wrote. And that's kind of what we hope from everybody. And we're at a point now where, we're in due diligence with, roughly a dozen of the biggest, VCs and investment banks, in the country.
So let's get into that with the audience. So you just raised $27 million. We just closed this round in October, November of 2022. And the day of this interview is the week before Christmas. We're December 19th, 2022 right now. And when we're doing this interview here, okay. So TJ, $27 million, I mean, shit, that's a hell of a runway. You got a hell of a runway, right? So I would imagine when you do that next round, just based on what you're saying, you're not going to wait till you spend 26.9 of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to spend 26.9 of it, but you're going to, the crazy thing is when you think about like this whole like venture capital world and tech startups or any startup that raises money, what some people forget is that you are raising the money to spend the money. You're not raising money from venture capital to stick it in the bank and earn 6% interest. And, that's not what makes your company. If 4 years from now, those investors look back and you hadn't spent their money, why did I give it to you? I gave it to you to grow the company, your brand, your awareness, but also your current investors would have been like, why'd you raise it and dilute us? It's a really fine line to walk when it comes to spending it responsibly, how quick to spend it, how long of a runway you want. It's tricky, and you're always going to be walking a line of, maybe I should have had more of a runway, or maybe that's too much.
Right.
You also have people that have different opinions on how it should be spent, how the runway should be. With us, it's always been fairly simple in terms of back when we only had $1 million, and then 2, and then 10, and then, it's roughly been split into thirds. I mean, not exactly, but
you don't need to spend any more money on development, do you? The tech's already there, correct?
It's never already there and finished. Yeah, I mean, we would, our chief technology officer, if he had his way, he would have another $100 million right now. He says it half joking and laughing, but he's not. And the crazy thing is, we have a great mix of experienced tech people that are part of our company, whether it's that work for us directly on our advisory board. We also have some outsiders that are just friends of the company, that sometimes it's great to have someone's opinion that's not invested, because it's not selfish on their part.
Right.
And those really experienced tech folks that have built big tech companies agree with our CTO that he could use he could responsibly spend $100 million on product and technology development alone.
Just be like, mind, sir, we're trying to sell this company for $1 billion. We'd like to not spend $1.1 billion.
So again, it's a really tough fine line, but we roughly spent a third of the money we've raised on marketing and branding efforts.
Well, let's talk about that too. Can we get into this? So one of the things you have not been shy, and I think you've about, and where you've been, I guess you could even say flamboyant with the money. I don't know if that word makes sense there or not, but you've definitely thrown some money around. You're based out right outside of Philadelphia. You've made a name for yourself, the LifeBrand company, within all the Philadelphia sports teams. It's now expanded to other geographies. And what a year to be a Philadelphia guy with the Eagles' success. Hopefully by the time this airs, they're getting ready for the Super Bowl, right? The Phillies' success, obviously. Sixers have some freaking studs on their team. I was just courtside with TJ a week ago playing the Lakers, and I guess I'll tell you right now, LeBron, it's cool seeing LeBron there. But Embiid and James Harden was pretty freaking exciting to watch on the Sixers. I'll tell you right, freaking Embiid is like incredible.
He's unreal, yeah.
I'm not a big basketball guy, but watch that 7-footer just act like he's a freaking point guard out there was insane to me. But TJ, maybe get into a little bit of what these strategic partnerships with the athletic teams, especially the one you have with the Eagles, and maybe just kind of talk about, okay, listen, I've heard Grant Cardone say it. I've said it. You don't always get a return on investment on certain things, like that billboard on the street, that commercial you did. You can't really measure ROIs, even some digital marketing campaigns that might be out there. You're building your brand. You're building the perception of you. But TJ, in some of our conversations, man, yeah, you are building that brand, but you're kind of getting a direct ROI to a degree as well, aren't you?
John, I love talking about this because, even internally within our own walls, there's, hey, should we spend this? Should we do that? Look, it's, we to own the main gate to an NFL stadium, to have a club within a stadium that we can entertain people at and create a once in a lifetime game experience for people. Those things aren't cheap. And do they give you an immediate, direct ROI? Absolutely not. If you looked at our ROI on some of those spends, or what that therefore does to our customer acquisition costs, it doesn't look good at the beginning. What it does is starts to build brand trust and awareness. We are a completely new vertical or product that didn't exist. And if people are going to give us their social media logins, they're going to give us the keys to their social media pass and air out all their dirty secrets and trust us with that, they need to know our brand and have brand recognition. They need to trust our brand. And there's a reason that the sports entertainment marketing is, I just read an article on this, a $60 billion a year industry and growing rapidly, because you are getting put in front of people where, for us, it's a mix. With us being a business to consumer product, yes, everyday average people are seeing our company brand and will eventually use it. I mean, John, anyone that knows marketing knows you got to touch someone 10, 12, 14 times before they respond, maybe 20 times if you're a new thing like us. So we got to get out in front of these folks. But really what it's done is allowed us to interact with and build relationships with some of the other largest corporate partners of these teams that we work with. That, John, some of them are some of the largest companies in the world. And those are people that aren't answering an early stage tech startup's phone call. But when we meet with them, and again, if I had a product, if I was Michelin Tires, this wouldn't make a lot of sense, because how many of the other large corporate partners of a team need Michelin Tires? But every large partner of these teams can and should benefit from having our technology. Some of the biggest companies that I've met over these past 2 years have helped us craft our delivery method and our approach to getting out there. And we're going to be, do you close a deal with some massive Fortune 500 company in a week? People are like, oh my God, you've had a billboard there for 2 months. Did you close a deal from it yet?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
Those kind of relationships and deals take time building, but we've also been able to host some incredible events. And look, hospitality is a huge part about business, is taking people out. Does somebody want to come listen to me about some product they've never heard of before and just sit in our office or sit on a Zoom call? People are bored to death on Zoom calls. You can come to an incredible experience, maybe the Army-Navy game that was just at Lincoln Financial Field last weekend, or a different sporting event, and it's a chance to get a captive audience, meet some great folks. But more importantly, almost everybody in the Philadelphia area now has at least heard of LifeBrand. Maybe they still don't know who we are or what we do, but they've heard of us. The thing I get from everyone is, oh, I've seen you everywhere. Well, now when that big Philadelphia company rolls out our product to their 20,000 employees, they're going to get a better participation rate and adoption rate because the employees know and trust us. Like, oh yeah, that's that company with the Eagles, or with this company or that company. There's a long-term method to that madness that is, you'll never measure the ROI or customer acquisition costs right away over the course of, but also, we don't just willy-nilly do it. We use outside analytics and metric companies. One of them is called Relo Analytics that measures the return on those. Like you said, Grant Cardone and some other people have said some things you just can't measure a return on, and they're right. But you can measure the impressions it's getting, the estimated media value that it's getting, I mean, our billboard at Citizens Bank Park, thanks in part to a World Series run, got a 2,800% return on its estimated media value from what we actually paid. Time. So basically, what that's saying is there's nothing else we could have spent our money on that could get that big of a return.
Right.
So, and again, John, it's not cheap. It's expensive. It is. It takes a lot to make them work.
Well, and you've expanded now too, right? So a mutual friend of you and I, Austin Eckler, I see you doing things with him. I see you doing stuff with, I don't know if you're doing it with the Chargers, but I saw you doing something with San Diego Padres. Is this, are you going to keep that expansion going? Or, I mean, if you want to, you just all your freaking money on this shit.
Where we're at right now, no, we're happy with the couple areas that we are and the money that we've spent. What that'll do is start now that phase. Like we said, it will generate an ROI. So now let it generate that money. And then let's spend some of our own money, not investment dollars, on the next wave of expansion. And then we'll slow down, let revenues catch up. I mean, there's a process to it, but, we're really happy with where we are.
And you just said something there too, key. Any of you tech founder types or entrepreneur types out there listening, TJ started this company in 2018. They have revenue coming in, by the way. They're not just living off of investor money only. They are selling a service and have money coming in. I'm not going to get into the burn rate on this show or anything like that, but I will tell you that they do have substantial revenue. When you talk about a damn runway, when you actually have money coming in.
Yeah, lining up. Well, I think important, lining up some substantial revenue. When you look at our, sales pipeline for next year, and now that we have, again, that course is the delivery method.
Well, the fact that you're even trying to get revenue, right? Because there's a lot of tech stuff.
Yeah, there's some companies John, there's people that look at our product as a tech company and say, give it away for free. Give it away for free. Don't charge a dime. Yeah, I mean, some of the most important people in terms of, giving an opinion on our company, people that might write future checks or potentially deny us one day, they'll go ahead and say revenue is actually the least of your concerns and should be at the bottom of your KPI list. I disagree with that. I come from a sales background. I want to earn my own keep and make my own money. But, I like what you're saying, because so many tech companies will just burn other people's money forever. And the old adage is, we'll figure out how to monetize it down the road once we have users. Well, maybe there's a way to do both. Maybe there's a way to get users and monetize it along the way. And that's where we are different. And I mean, hopefully we're right that we found a great way to monetize it along the way. But at the end of the day, it's our AI and our users and data that, to most tech companies' points, are ultimately where the value is. But we're going to monetize it along the way. We're not going to wait till the end and burn $1 billion of investment dollars before we start seeing a profit.
And a lesson should be taught there with what TJ just said, because any entrepreneur doing the math in their head right now, guess what? Every dollar that they make with the revenue being brought in is $1 less of dilution that they would have gotten from investors, okay? And also the revenue coming in could only help valuation.
Yeah, and John, there's no guarantees. Like 2 years ago, VCs were throwing money all over the place like it was their job. I mean, geez, look at some of these companies that have gone under that these big VCs have invested in with like little to no due diligence. I mean, it's crazy. Well, next year, I mean, everyone's predicting this loom and doom economy and recession. There's no guarantee you're going to raise that next round. So you better have some plan of being able to essentially take care of yourself and fund your own growth, because there's no guarantee that next round of funding's coming. You have to plan for that.
All right. So listen, we're going to wrap up here, but I do want to say something. TJ recently had a baby. Congratulations to you and your wife. Beautiful kid. TJ, we talked about the Trump DeSantis versus Biden thing, so you might not answer this question, but I am going to put you on the spot. Pats or Genos?
Dude, without question, Genos. If I have to pick
he actually answered.
Without question, I'll say Genos. There's a couple other like little known places. And for those of you guys that aren't familiar with what we're talking about, hopefully you know it's the two main cheesesteak places here in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I'm a big Genos fan, and look, some of it's all just I don't know. It's like the first place I went as a little kid. My parents are from South Philly, so Some of it might just be my own.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was just out there, I don't think I told you this, I had the guy driving me. We stopped at Gino's on the way to the airport going back, and Gino's had a too long of a freaking line, so we went to Pat's instead. And the Army-Navy game was the day before. There was a million people from that game are all wearing the Navy gear and stuff. But I got to tell you, most of the time when I ask people that damn question, they don't answer, or they say, "Oh, don't go to either of them. Go to this place or whatever." But you got.
Well, I'd be worried about somebody canceling me or not using our company because of political remarks. If they're gonna cancel me because of my cheesesteak preference, the world might have gone too far. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, man, this was an awesome interview. We always end the show with one question. TJ Colaiezzi, CEO and founder of LifeBrand. It doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to be anything we've been talking about. You recommend what movie for our audience?
What movie? Good question. I just watched this the other night. The Social Network, which talks about Mark Zuckerberg and how Facebook was started.
So good.
And there's just something about like when someone has an idea and running. And look, whether I don't know if I'm even a fan of him necessarily or not, but I enjoy that movie. But I'm a big Bronx Tale guy. So if I had to ultimately pick a movie, Bronx Tale.
Listen, bro, you just look at the first one on Social Network. One of my best lines in that damn movie is when he says to the lawyers during the deposition, they go, You know why? I know he couldn't have invented Facebook, because then he would have invented Facebook.
Look, it's really hard. Would I give him credit for when he's building that? I mean, and I've obviously not built anything nearly on that scale. It's really hard, and there's always people coming at you or that have different opinions on things or feel entitled to make a decision towards something. Like, you got to surround yourself with really good people, but what I've seen from the most successful people in this country, they've also trusted their own gut and have prevailed. And bottom line is they just outwork everybody else. And, one of my favorite quotes is an acronym for luck. LUCK, and it stands for laboring under correct knowledge.
Ooh, I like it.
People will be like, "Oh, John got lucky," or "TJ got lucky." No, John and TJ worked their ass off.
Right.
And that's when they got quote unquote lucky. They labored under the correct knowledge that was given to them. And when people labor under that correct knowledge, they tend to get quote unquote lucky. When they surround themselves with the right people, they tend to get quote unquote lucky. And I just think that's always something great. I like editing things.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. And I tell you what, I used to describe myself as lucky sometimes, and I don't anymore for the damn reasons you just said. There's a self-deprecating component to that where it's a connotation.
And John, I'll leave you with this. Bronx Tale, one of the best lines in that movie. There's nothing worse than wasted talent. So any of you that have talent out there, don't waste it. Go do something.
Boom, I love it. And I'll leave you with this. When Sonny tells him, "Okay, you just got the guy out of your life for cheap because he was ditching him because you would have
$20.
Tony, TJ, I gave you a lot more than $100, man. If this investment doesn't work, not out of my life for cheap, buddy."
And that wraps up another episode of 2000% Raise. Thank you for listening. The best way to support our show is by leaving a rating or review on all platforms you listened on. And of course, by following, liking, or subscribing. Visit us at 2000percentraise.com or at John Cerasani on TikTok and Instagram. And of course, my YouTube channel at John Cerasani's 2000% Raise. Find all the ways to follow today's guests in our show notes. Thank you for being a part of our entrepreneurial journey.